To pay a purchase order in Lizzy, the only thing we're going to do, we're going to go to accounting, payables, pay payables. This is going to give us a list of suppliers that we currently owe money to. So this is a dynamic list. It changes based on who we currently owe money to. So for example, if I pay off Aluma, it won't be in this list anymore. All right, so we're going to first pick the supplier that we want to actually work with. We have options up here at the top that are fairly important to understand. Not only have we picked a supplier, but we can tell it only show us the currently due items, which would actually look at the due date and today's date. So it's only showing us things that are currently due. We can tell it to only show us parts, major units, or expense. So if we only want to pay a particular type of purchase order, we can do that. We can tell it to only show us sold units. So if we happen to be working with a vendor that we buy units from and we want to only show the ones that we've sold so we don't have to go picking through a whole bunch of stuff, then we can select that option to turn that on. We can sort the purchase orders based on either the purchase order number, the invoice number, or the due date. And then we can tell it to show us purchase orders only by a specific date. And when we put that date in, we can specify whether it's for the invoice date, receive date, or the due date. So those are the options that we have to help us find the items that we're looking at. Now, to pay a purchase order, we can either select all, deselect all, or we can manually come down through here and select the ones that we want to pay. Now, if something happens to be wrong with this particular purchase order, then we're going to have to select that PO and edit it so that we can actually go through and make changes to it. So, for example, if we come down here and change the cost on this particular item from 1914 to 20, because maybe the person had the wrong amount in the system. Now, if we come back over here to pay payables, we come back to Aluma, you'll notice two things. One, the amount has changed. Now, the selected amount was there because we selected that PO. So I'm going to have to uncheck it and fill it in again. But you'll notice that it's automatically updated the amount to pay here, and it remembered the things that I had already selected. So if I'm in the middle of doing a pay purchase order and I'm checking them off as I go and I get interrupted, it's perfectly okay to close this form and come back to it because it's going to have everything checked that you had up to that point. Now, as we scroll down, a few of the other options is you have credits. So if you have rebates or refunds or warranties or anything like that that you have applied payments to over in the accounts receivables, they will automatically show up over here to use as payment. So right now we can see that we owe $662. I'm going to tell it I want to apply this particular credit to that, and it changes the amount to pay to $426.17. So once we get down to this portion, the payment options are, we can set the due date or the date to pay. We can select the account, the banking account that we want to use to make the payment, or credit card account if we've got those set up. We can tell it whether we're using a checking, the check payment, whether we're going to use a debit card, an EFT transaction, or if we had previously set up CODs, as in the COD video that you may or may not have watched, then you can tell it to link to a specific COD. The check number will automatically fill in for you, but you do have the option to fill it in. We can pay with petty cash, or we can refinance the PO to a different supplier. So the one thing to note with refinancing, though, is I can't choose it right now because up here at the top I have selected to view all purchase order types. In order for me to do a refinance, and it tells you here is disabled for all, in order for me to be able to do a refinance, I would have to come over here and pick a specific type of PO, and then I will get the additional option to tell it to refinance to whoever I want to refinance to. So once you get the options set the way you want them, you got your payment information set up the way that you want to do it, we're just going to submit the payment. And right now I'm just going to go up here to checking, and we'll view the checking account register because I told it to pay with a check. And you can see here that it has paid Aluma, And if we open up the detail, it gives me a list of all the purchase orders that we use to make that payment, so that when we print the check out, it'll actually give the vendor the information that they need to know what purchase orders we actually are paying.